Hey guys, finally he sleeps here. I'm back in the garage today and we have a Honda project vehicle that got dropped off that it's a weird issue. So what we've got is the second cylinder, the spark plug popped out. So what happens is we have an issue where sometimes you have a spark plug that can either be cross-threaded or something. Basically, there's a problem with maybe the ignition coil, the spark plug fires, but it pops out of the threads. The threads got damaged in the process, so what we have to do is a new spark plug is not seating, it's not threading in, so we need to redo the threads in here. Now, if you have a problem with this, there's a couple of different ways you can go. If you're just having problems with the spark plug threading, if it didn't pop out and damage the threads, there's possible that there's debris or something in there, and the first thing to do is to take a chase and use a chase tool to clean it out. Now, this is a thread chase tool. This one's set up to be the exact same thread size as our spark plugs that go in here. So this is going to work for us. And what you do is you put a little bit of grease on it and you just put it on a socket set, you put it down in there, and you basically screw through as if you're putting a spark plug in, and the grease in the grooves will pick out any debris and clean up your thread so that the spark plug will go in. If for some reason the spark plug doesn't thread and you have more damage, or you're in a situation where, like we are, where the spark plug blew out, you're going to have to replace the threads, and that is a completely different process. It's a little bit more involved. That's what we're doing here today. All right, this is our tool that is going to actually retap the cylinder head with a larger hole. It sounds much worse than it is. So what we have to do first is drill out any remaining threads down in the cylinder head. That smaller section at the bottom of this bit is actually a chase that will find it. But ours, the threads are so damaged that's not doing us any good. So we're gonna have to drill out the existing threads. It's an aluminum block, so it's really not that hard to do. And then we'll use this to drill a larger hole and thread it so that we can put an insert in. So the next step is to take, and we're gonna put a helicoil down in it. Now what this is, it's threaded on the inside so that a new spark plug will seat into this, but the threads that we create in the head, this will screw into. And the way you do it is it actually attaches onto a spark plug. Once you have the head drilled out, this goes on to a spark plug. As long as your spark plug it's not tapered here. It's got to be flat here. If it's tapered, you can actually drive the spark plug into the aluminum head. So we put this all the way on so that the threads line up, and it is exactly what it is. We push it down in here and we thread it in. And then once it's all the way threaded in, we'll unthread it, and this part will stay inside the head. And the reason that does is we're going to put a anti-seize on the spark plug before we put it into here, and then we'll put Loctite and RTV on the outside, a high temp Loctite on the outside of this, so that it will seal, it will stay. And then when we're out, there's a punch you put into it and then you tap it, and if you see these there are knurled top. The top part is knurled. When we tap it, it will hold it into the head, and the high temp RTV will hold it in place, and then we'll have something to put the spark plug into. But we have some really interesting problems with this specific Honda engine because that cylinder head is so deep, none of the tools will fit. So for the bit that actually creates the threads, that taps the threads into the head, this 5/8 inch socket is about the largest socket that will fit down in that hole. This was actually set up for a much larger 7 or a 3/4 inch socket. Actually, it was millimeter. But what we did is took this and we actually ground it down. Using a die grinder, we were able to cut this back down until we could get it close enough to this socket and now we've fused it into this socket. So now this is the new permanent tool, just so that this diameter is small enough to fit down that hole. This is allowing us to actually thread it. But the first thing we have to do is get the old threads out, and to do that we need to get a drill bit down there, but the length is so long, we couldn't find a drill bit long enough, so we're gonna have to do the exact same thing to the drill bit. So here's the drill bit in the vise, and I've got an old 15/32 socket, and what we're gonna do is square this off. Well, not square it off. We're gonna create this, so we've got these rounded sides. We're gonna have to flatten down with the die grinder until it slides onto this, and we'll lock it onto this socket. So I've got the socket on here. We ground it down enough that we could lock it on, and I just used some Gorilla Tape just to hold it in place, because once I go down in there with the drill, I want to make sure I can come back out with it. I don't want it. Now, before we do anything, you need to use like a borescope or something to make sure that you've started the car to get the actual piston down. We don't want it up close to where the spark plug is. We need room in there to drill through and grind. So I'm going to put a little bit of grease here on the drill, and we're going to go ahead and get rid of the threads that are in there. Borescope out. Let's take a look down. Okay, so the cylinder head is smooth. There's no more threads in it. So now we've got to drill that out, tap it, so that the new helicoil will fit. Okay, the next step is to actually use this and go down into the threads and tap it so that we add threads to it. Now, I am using a T-handle here so I can get two hands on it and go straight down. And it's just a T-handle bracket here that attaches. I also have it taped on so that for some reason it doesn't come unconnected from the socket and the extension. So I have it Gorilla taped on. So we're just going to add pressure and twist. We'll do a couple of turns and then back it out so that we can grab any shavings that are in there. Okay, so we've been doing this for quite a while. And what we're doing is you're just turning it in and we're threading the head for the helicoil. I'm doing a little bit of a turn, backing it out just to receive the shavings, and then once we get a couple of turns into the head, I'm backing the whole thing out and cleaning the shavings out of the grease. So now back it all out. And clean the grease off and take the aluminum shavings with it. So you can see the aluminum shavings in there. All right, so now that we've got it all done, the next step that's all threaded and all the way down through the shaft, The next step is to get any extra debris out. You can use an air hose to blow it out. You can actually start the engine to let the piston bump everything out. I'm gonna use an air hose. I think I grabbed the majority of anything that was in there with the grease that was on the tool, so we're gonna do the air hose. So here's the thread insert, and if we look at it real close, it's, focus on it. If we look at it real close, there's knurls at the top. So what we have there is, that's gonna be the top. It's gonna go that way in, it's gonna thread down inside, and then once it's all in there, we use a swage tool to tap it and blow out the knurls to hold it in place. But first, we've got to thread it onto the spark plug and use the spark plug to seat it. I'm going to take some high temp anti-seize and thread this and put this on the actual spark plug first, because I don't want the spark plug getting caught inside the insert. So we'll anti-seize that. I'll clean up the edges here. Okay. And then we're going to make sure the knurls are at the top, which they'll go on first then. Thread that on. Now we're using a flat top spark plug so that it won't seat into the aluminum, so it's got to be flat. There's a little washer here. So on the outside, we're going to use permanent high temperature. It's a 272 thread locker, and we'll place that on the threads. So we've got it through all the threads, and now we're going to place this down in there and just go ahead and tighten it in. Go backwards to start, and then we'll start to thread it. Make sure it's in there where it needs to be. Okay. Seated, and now we got to let it sit for 24 hours. All right, so it has been 24 hours. We're going to go ahead and back the spark plug out, but leave the insert in the head. Did we get it? There it is. That's why we did the anti-seize on this side. Now we need to use the swage tool to tap the knurls into the aluminum block. Again, I've actually taped this onto a extension because the swage tool sits down in there. It's not going to drop down into the block, but I want to be able to get it back out. So we have it seated. I'm just going to take a hammer and tap it a few times. That should have locked it in. Put the spark plug back in. We should be good to go. Drop in the ignition coil and see if it starts up.